That's it. We're live. Welcome everyone to Sunday night, which is actually Sunday afternoon teacher talk here. I'm gonna wait for the critical mass to show up. I'm not always sure what number that is, but I feel like we always start talking about something and then leads into that. A lot going on, man. This is we just bought
oh no.
What?
It's doing that thing.
What do you mean?
Where I can't.
This app is no longer shared with you. All right, so somebody said what you got to do is delete it. We keep having these issues with the YouTube app that are coming up, and then it's like it doesn't let you use it. So Mar said, I think she said she did this the other day. She just deleted it and then put it back on, and it worked fine. So
sorry, everyone.
Does this have to scan some part of your body to do it? Oh no, it just trusted me.
Oh, look at that.
It knew to trust me. So what's up, everybody? We are. Should we just jump into this? Yeah, we're right. That's a good number. So funny. Good job, Scott. Look at you putting the question before the thing. Thanks, man. So Scott will be first, but it's so funny. Like when we started doing this, like, you know, you'd have like 3 people and you're like, damn, 3 people are on here and I don't know them. That'll be awesome. So it's really fun to see like where things grow too. So I'll do my little pre-game action, my little beginning of the show thing for Jake, and then we'll jump into it. So Jake, you can start the podcast now. My name is CJ Reynolds, and I run this channel called Real Rap With Reynolds here on YouTube, and we are also on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and I think that's it. That's the extent of our reach. I also wrote this book called Teach Your Class Off. It's back here. I think I want to replace this poster with a giant poster of that because I'm so proud of it. And this is something that we do every Sunday because we know that educators are usually scared to death on Sundays or feeling uneasy or maybe have some special super magic that they can sprinkle on everybody else. So myself and all of these fine people here on the side or underneath or however, whatever you're watching this on, show up every Sunday to try and help one another out to create this community that is supporting one another. And so if this isn't enough, you could get the book. You could join the Facebook group, Real Rap With Reynolds at Teacher Talk. You could have me come speak at your school. You could have me virtually speak at your school. You could do a book study. You could have me come talk to your book study. If anyone's school or if you have a sizable group that like orders the book, I can get you a discount, first of all. And second of all, I do Zoom calls with people after they're done doing book studies to ask questions and stuff like that. So all that is there. Oh, and we have a podcast, which this gets turned into a podcast. So if you don't have data on your phone or you need like a podcast is more your jam, you don't need to see this while you're listening to me, then that's fine. You can just go get on anywhere that you can get a podcast. Literally. Jake said it's everywhere. So everywhere. You see the squirrels out back. They're climbing down the fence. They know I'm doing something right now.
Marley's on here.
Marley, cover your ears. The squirrels keep destroying my yard. They need to be handled. But I don't want to kill them. And there's 3 of them. And Marley named them. They're ketchup, mustard, and swirly. So I don't just want to end their lives. But they piss me off. They're eating all my stuff out there. And they know I can see them. I'm going to try and focus in. I feel like up. Squirrel. So here we go. Ready? Got Scott's question. Scott put it in there first, and Scott wrote question before it, which just helps. I don't really know if that's true because you're the one that.
Oh, it does.
Questions. Awesome. That's a nice shirt you have on. It's a nice teacher class off shirt you're rocking right now. So I don't have one of those on today because I got to record after this something else. Scott is asking, how do I grade effectively while not taking forever? I know I can pick and choose a couple of key things to focus on when grading. Scott, that's what I do. So look, I feel like, teachers, maybe you have this also. I feel like I have a sixth sense sometimes. I can just look at a paper and I know if it's basically right or basically wrong. I can tell. Like, so one of the funny things that happened last week was a bunch of dudes were cheating and they were handing in the identical work. And I didn't notice it from their answers. I noticed it from their mistakes. So I saw on Google Docs the same pattern of underlined red words and misspellings. And then that's what tipped me off. So kids, if you're going to cheat, make sure you spell check because that, will help you perhaps in the future. Scott, I think, if we keep doing distance learning next year, I'm going to have to figure out a way to make grading quicker. So my jam right now is like, I have, I don't know how many lessons in Google Classroom per class. And then it's just such a pain to like look and see if there's old work, to look and see like if someone turned something in late. It's like this process all the time. So one thing that I do is I block out time to do it. And I'm doing nothing else. I'm not looking at my phone. I literally like put music on. I put headphones on. I let everyone know in the house that dad is like not accessible right now because I'm focusing in on this one thing. And I find that when I do that, that's how I get done emails, and it's how I get done grading. Is the only thing that I'm doing. Because just like reading a book, I find that, like when you read a book, like, and you have 10 minutes at a time, like it just takes forever to read the book. But if you put all those 10 minutes together, you actually read more book because you get in this flow state of doing it. That's one thing. Two is, you're right, I only grade for certain things. So I don't have to, like, even for certain assignments, unless I'm grading and giving back feedback for every single answer, I am instead, how am I thinking of this? I am looking at the questions that I know you had to take an extra step for. So like if I'm asking like, a journal entry, sometimes I don't read all the journal entries. So like, let me make this fast. Because I'm thinking of 100 things at a time right now. You can ask a journal entry and say like, what's the time that you almost got caught for doing something and you narrowly escaped? I can just basically check that they did it right or count the number of sentences that they did. And I don't have to like read through that and thoughtfully give a response. But if I know that number 3 required textual evidence from the actual text, then that's the one that I'm going to make sure that I'm reading. And so and then to be honest, if that one looks like it's right, if they did that one correctly, probably they did the easier questions too. So if it's what's the setting of the story, I can just scan that real quick, but that's not one of the ones I'm mainly looking at. And so that's how I do it. And then sometimes a lot of grades I'll do out of 4, right? So like, and you can scale that. You can have it out of 8, you can have it out of 12, whatever, but it's 4 points and it's completely done. 4 points if you get it completely done. 3 if it's mostly done and like pretty good. 2 if it's only half done, and 1 if it's like you basically wrote your name on a piece of paper and handed it in. So that like those little things just make it easier and easier and easier. So I'm wondering who else does that, and like what are ways that you grade really quickly? Maisha, I love Google Forms when it comes to grading. I have not taken the step to figure out how to do that. But now Tracy says they're good too. Now everyone's going to say they're good. Now I got to go do it. But the next week's like the last week of school. Like, is it next week? No, this week and the following week we have, and then we're done. So maybe I'll learn for next year. Marta Blubberfish, can I get a shout out? I don't know about that kid. No, Marta Blubberfish is my daughter's YouTube channel, and she wants me to give her a shout out. Yes, she is lovely. And we are raising a whole house of YouTubers now. Brody started a YouTube channel, and he's been like, that dude will sit back here for 12 hours the other day easily.
He zones in, which is not always the thing for Brody. So when he does it, it's pretty impressive.
Like, it's like we just don't bother him. He's like plugged into the matrix. And then Mar is always editing something. So yeah, both of my kids have YouTube channels, and they're really wonderful. There you go, love. Deborah Clough is asking, will this keep? Oh, will this keep going even though the school year is finished? Yep, we do this all summer. I feel like we took a little break last year. Did we?
Like I don't remember, June? But my dad had
your dad passed away, so that kind of. So as long as no one passes away, I know. Come on, I know. How do you make light in the darkness? You smile. So I think So this will go all summer, especially because
we might take a week off or something like that for like a family vacation or something.
In June. But the beauty of this is you can do it anywhere. I mean, we've done this, like, remember the time we did it on the beach?
Yes.
And we were on the beach and I had a beach chair. You can look this one. There's no way to like recognize it. I don't even remember which one it was. But it was like my wife made this tent of towels around me.
Because
but
it got
was
really windy.
So windy. And I was
awful.
sweating my butt off in those things because it was like the sun was beaming on me. I was encapsulated in this blanket, and yeah, but
oh, how do you, Donna? She remembers it.
It just shows. Thanks, Donna. It's just it's one of those things. It's like this will happen almost no matter what. Or the time just a few months ago that I did it from a rest stop, and then I killed my phone and I didn't have a charger, and I almost didn't make it to Pittsburgh for my speaking engagement. Crazy time. Nate Taylor says, love your videos. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it, man. As a future wannabe teacher, I'm wondering where you think this whole COVID thing will put traditional teaching. Much love from Ontario, Canada. I love Canada. I've only been to Niagara Falls, like most people, and Vancouver, but I really, really loved it. So I think I'm not sure, but given what I saw anyway the other day, the CDC new guidelines that they came out with for like public spaces, schools, things like that, it just looks like the worst. It looks like...
Yeah, so you can read Alex Q. She went back. She's in Finland, I think she said.
Oh, okay. Should I read this now or keep going?
I mean, if you want to talk about it, whatever.
Alex Q said, and as long as I remember, school opening here in Finland went as imagined, not so great. A few classes total here in the whole country is quarantine, and for others, a lot of hand washing. Yeah, so like that, I keep hearing that where it's like, I saw these pictures and it was on the news, so who knows if it was real. But it was in China where kids essentially looked like they were sitting in desks with like, it was like pool noodles coming off their heads, right?
to keep the
distance. If my students have pool noodles, if I have pool noodles coming off my head, you know we're going to fight with those things. You know, you're just going to be walking around like whacking other people with your pool noodle head. It would be a nightmare. And so it's, to me, it just seems like going back is so much more problematic than staying home. Now, that being said, I realize that there's a number of parents that like count on like life goes in such a way where your kids go to school and you get to go to work. And what happens when you can't go to work? I don't have an answer for that, but if I just speak from an educational perspective, it just seems like a whole lot of problems and not and a whole lot of potential disaster because we're all in the same room. So like they want everyone to stay in the same room and you have to teach all the subjects. Like, bro, we're not learning math next year then because Reynolds counts on Siri. Or Google Home. That's how I do all my math. So I'm not really sure how that would happen. My guess is it will look something like partially at school, partially at home. Maybe we see some kids like a day and then, we teach other kids online. I think it's going to be some kind of hybrid model there. But I mean, ultimately, look, I think what it really comes down to is this ends up being temporary, right? Like it's in, I don't know how long, a year, 2 years, I have zero idea, but I think we eventually just end up going back to schools. But maybe we find that some kids, like traditional school's not their jam. Like I've said this a bunch of times, I have certain students that are just like doing so much better now that they're at home. And I just wonder if that's better for them. Like if so, going forward, do we have more choice in the matter as far as, or just students? I don't know. So we'll see. Chris Chong, what's up, buddy? Is saying, hey, Reynolds, I just started teaching some evening classes on top of teaching full-time during the day. I think I bit off a little bit more than I can chew. Any advice for handling the workload? Chris, my whole life has been about biting off more than I can chew. I think, who said it? I've read this somewhere. This is a quote of someone's. It said, oh, damn it. Something like grit. Maybe it's grit is biting off more than you can chew and chewing it. And I always liked that because I get bored when I don't have enough stuff to do, but I get overwhelmed when I have too much stuff to do, but I really kind of like too much stuff to do. It's like this kind of weird thing that I don't know, maybe it's just sadistic, but I would say, Chris, it is literally blocking out the hours in your day. So my day, one of the things I've been really leaning on since I've been home, especially in the last couple of weeks, is Google Calendar. And I try to put everything in there. I want when I wake up to hit Google Calendar and everything's in there. So whether that's my wife is putting stuff in there, whether it's my helper Edie is putting stuff in there, and then I have this very clear vision of like what has to happen that day. And then I have a master list, which is around here somewhere. I don't know why I was going to show it to you, but has like 100 things on it. And that's, our daughter just walked in the backyard. I thought it was a stranger and it scared the crap out of me. I don't know why it would scare me. Hey,
she's out there feeding the squirrels.
Damn it, I'm telling you, this is the problem. It's the problem.
She's an animal lover.
She's the animal whisperer is what she is. I swear. I have like little St. Francis for a kid out here. But anyway, Chris, I think it's literally planning out every moment of your day. So that means planning out breakfast, planning out lunch, planning out 20 minutes to take a coffee break and talk to your wife, planning out, if you need to watch Gardener's World in the middle of the afternoon. And that's okay, because that's what I like to do. I'm, which means I'm old because I watch Gardener's World, which I can't even find because it's on BBC and I got to watch it like bootlegged on, YouTube. Anyway, are you waving me on because I was talking about Gardener's World?
Because you're like massive ADD brain.
I am, but I really love Gardener's World.
Okay.
All right. So that's what I do. That's the simple answer to that is I plan out every single moment of every single day. Mr. James Pete is asking, I have a horrible time with closure on the school year, not the kids getting on with life. It makes sense, if that makes sense. What's your best advice for closure on a school year, especially this year? James, that's a great question, man. I think a lot of teachers probably deal with this, and we don't talk about it often, right? Because I think there's this like lust for the summer, but then when the summer comes, it's like, oh, like, where's my meaning? My meaning is at a school building with children, and now I don't have that. So like, what do I do now? One of the things that I like to do, there's a couple of things I do in the summer. One is I reflect on my year. And so I take a couple of weeks and actually do this. Like I write notes, I write like what I did, what I remember, what happened that went well, what happened that didn't go well. And then how can I either like build on what worked or how can I do differently what didn't work? And that's just my process. I do this every year at New Year's as well. And I like reassess my entire year. And then I go back and I look at like what I could have done better and what I, what would have, what I should have changed. The other thing that I do is I'm really big on like, and I feel this coming up in my life, which is exciting because it's getting close to summer and the weather's nicer and stuff like that. So that's a good time to do this. But I feel this huge shift coming in my life, right? And this is giving a little bit of, I haven't even really talked to my wife that much about this, but like this big shift coming in my life where I want to like, I think that there's levels to life, right? And this is taken from someone else's idea. This is not my idea. I think there's levels to life and I want to know how I can get up to the next level, right? So my idea that I'm running with this week, this theme amongst us and our community is that I am hungry, not greedy, but I want everything that God has for me this year. And so I've been trying to think about that. So I've been thinking about when the school year ends, really putting time into that. Like what's for you next? How can you build on what you did this year? How can you connect with your family? How can you become healthier? How can you become like, what books can you read? What podcasts can you listen to? What work can you do that's going to fill you up so that you can show back up into school and do stuff? Because the things we're doing outside of school they're fuel. It's cross-training. Everything we do is cross-training in life. And so whether it's you take up rock climbing or hiking or knitting, that's going to inform your practice as an educator, just as your practice as an educator is going to inform those things as well. So that's some of the stuff that I think about in the summer and try to like really maximize it. And let me say this one more, because I see you got two little ones in that picture anyway. But a friend of mine told me a couple of summers ago, she said, so turns out something like 80 or 90% of the time that you will spend with your parents was between birth and 18, right? If you grow up in sort of like a so-called traditional family, right? Birth to 18. That's 80 to 90% of the time you will actually see your parents alive, right? That's huge. And so that's a huge amount of time. And someone told me the other week, or a couple summers ago, they said like, so Brody's going to be 13 this summer. They said that means that you basically have 5 summers left with your son before he starts going out and doing his own thing, taking his own trips, going to his own places, living his own life. 5 summers left. So I try to maximize that time as much as possible. As much as I work, I try to really dial in and really make memories. That's my whole mindset. It's not just spending time. It's how do I make memories with my kids this summer? And so that's what I've been thinking about. Long answers. Carolyn is asking, if we start in September with distance learning, How do we build relationships with students on a classroom community or a classroom community online? Carolyn, this is something that
it's like the $1 million question.
It's the $1 million
right?
question. It's what I've been thinking about the most, because I live without relationships. My classroom doesn't work. Like I just don't think I'm good enough. Like that's like it's basically it's like that feels like my superpower in a way. And when that is taken away, it's like, well, what else you got, Reynolds? Like, you know, do you have what it takes to create a classroom that's engaging enough, that's connecting enough, that's actually impacting young people? So my initial guess is I don't know, but I have to break down communication somehow, and it cannot be in the form of a Zoom call with a group of individuals. Like that's just never, ever, ever going to work. I think maybe it's making videos and sending it to them to families like, hey, my name's Mr. Reynolds. This is what you would see at back to school night, or this is what you would see on the first day of school. I'm just going to break it down right here for you and try and make something dynamic, at least just let my energy come through, even if I don't have a green screen and do all that stuff, because I want to set myself apart from everyone else in the school. And that's not, that seems like really kind of narcissistic, but like I do. Like, bring your game, bro. Like I'm trying to be, I want to be memorable. I want you to go home at the end of the first day and be like, yo, there's this English teacher that we have in 9th grade. And like, this dude's either crazy or amazing. I'm not really sure, or both. So how do I do that to start winning kids over? And then I think it comes maybe in the form of phone calls. I'm not really, really sure, because it's Philadelphia is too big to drive to everyone's house. Like if I taught elementary ed, or if I had like one group a day, or every day, like that would be different.
Well, you're not even in a like district.
No,
it's not a district since it's a charter school.
Look at our seniors. We drove around to like 85 or 90 homes.
I know.
It took like, I don't know,
20 hours.
Yeah,
or something
like that, close to 20 hours to drive all over the city. So I don't know, but that's a great question, and it's something I'm still thinking about, and so something I'm hoping to have some level of an answer when we go back in September.
He's closer to
September. Chris Grady is asking, first year teacher in the fall, and Chris, what a year, right? I'm sure you've been thinking about this already. Like, what a year to start. It's so crazy, man. But you'll have a really great story going forward. I have gotten the job, but it's an hour away. School board approved, but not signed contract. Now I have an opportunity to take a job 15 minutes away. How should I approach? Chris, I think that if you like the job that is 15 minutes away from your house, I would do that. And this is why. One, you don't owe anybody anything. Yes, they offered you the opportunity, and yes, that's great. But ultimately, even teaching in Philly, which isn't that far, like on the weekends, I can especially get up to my school really, really quickly, but I live in New Jersey. So when I taught in Jersey, it was no bridge toll, one. Two, it was so much faster. Like if I wanted to run the school, if I needed to do something, if I needed to grab something, if I forgot my lunch, I could just run home. But if you're an hour away, that means that what are you going to do if your students want you to go to a sporting event? What do you do if there's a play? What do you do if there's like a thing where you go home and then you have to come back to school for conferences or anything? It's an hour away. So that doesn't seem like, so look, if you're driving an hour away, let's listen to tons of audiobooks. But if you can have a job that's that much closer and it's comparable, I would just take that job 100% and then just see, and then just apologize, say, hey, look, something else came up. I really appreciate the opportunity. I don't take it lightly, but something came up that's closer to home. And, you know, when you start having a family, if you don't have one already, but like, I just think, gosh, wouldn't it be great if I worked we always say this, if I worked in town.
Oh, I know.
If I could like ride my bike to work, if I had a bike and I rode it to work.
And you just are able to like continue building relationships in a different way. And like,
if we didn't have kids and I worked in town.
Oh, I know.
It would be.
We would still have kids.
Our front porch would look like, it would look like crazy town all the time. I would think we would have kids over on our porch at least all the time, you know. Real go with my girlfriend, Mr. Reynolds. Mm-hmm. No. Guys, I'm watching a show. That would be kind of awesome, man. We could have movie nights and stuff. We would go nuts.
All right, relax.
All right, I'm getting excited about it, even though I'm not going to do it. But Noah Cornell is asking, 5th grade teacher was told the students couldn't receive a lower grade in the 3rd quarter grades. What was it the same for your school? Noah, this is the question. I just had a really good talk about this with a very good friend of mine the other day, who was told that the third quarter of her year, or the third trimester of her year, they were giving out assignments, they were grading assignments, teachers were giving thoughtful feedback, students were handing stuff in, but not all students were handing stuff in. Some students just said they weren't going to do the work. And so they were told at the end of that third trimester, they were just told this last week, that they have to give everyone 100% for the third trimester, which is like, what? Like what? What message does this send to children that did the work? Now, look, I just had this conversation with my wife the other day. That maybe this becomes a video at some point. I think grades are arbitrary. Grades are not a determining factor in whether or not you will be successful in life. I feel pretty successful in my life, and I didn't give a crap in high school. Just that's not when it hit for me. Now, education, 100% was important, but I learned things growing up like I wasn't allowed to quit. My parents didn't let me quit anything, man. And if I did, like on the off chance, I quit 2 things in my life: soccer, because I got kicked in the face with a ball by Nicole. She kicked me in the face with a ball all the time. And piano. Both times I had to walk myself to the places and explain to that individual why I was no longer going to be on their team or take their lessons. And so that made me not want to quit stuff, because it was more difficult to quit than it was to just stay locked in. There were all these lessons that I still learned, but it wasn't great. The problem, I think, though, that with this is that we are sending students the wrong message, that kids that did the work are now going to be like, well, what the hell am I doing work for next year? Like, how do I know this is going to be great? I put all the time and effort in. Now, look, they still learned the stuff. They still advanced their learning and became better people. But I just think it is, I hasten to say this fully, but it feels like schools are being weak and they don't want to have the conversation with students and parents and that sort of thing. Now, that being said, our school does, I'm not going to talk about it yet because it's not public knowledge, but like we do have some certain things in place where certain students will not be able to go below a certain grade. And really, that's because access has been such a hard thing in our school, like kids getting laptops, kids having internet. So I get that like kids wouldn't be able to get like below, let's just throw a number out there and say it's below a 55%, right? Because once you go below that, it's really hard to come back up. But like if you can start them at a place where it's like, dude, if you start doing work, you can build your grade back up to something else. But part of me thinks this isn't that big of a deal, right? Like ultimately it's like, it's a few months, it's 1 year, it's whatever. It's not going to ruin anyone's life. Like no one loses at life because we had coronavirus and they didn't get to go to school all the time. I don't think that happens. But are we sending students the correct message and saying, look, what you do matters, what your grade matters, your effort mattered, your lack of effort mattered. And at least having those conversations, I think that's a really important thing that we need to be doing with students. So if we are doing these big sweeping changes of like everyone gets 100, that needs to be explained, and students need to know why. And if we are jumping over that, then we're being lazy and we're being scared. It's always about, make a decision, but explain why. Like have the conversation, and I think that's how you win those situations. And there's a lot to say about that. Like I could go like 100 different ways with that conversation, but that's just what I'm feeling right now. Got it. Lada is asking, hi from Sweden. Hello from Sweden, or from Philadelphia, not Sweden. I'd love to go to Sweden. Every time someone tells me they're from a place, I always think like, man, someone emailed me from Kuwait yesterday and I was like, damn, I'd love to go to Kuwait. That would be amazing. Here schools have been open throughout the whole pandemic. Whoa. I have 5 guys in my class who always talk to one another during class and they aren't talking math. So my question is, what do you do to stop this behavior? I have asked them, told them, ignored them, yelled at them. Nothing worked for more than 20 minutes. So that's a great question. First of all, I'm really wondering what that was like to be open during the whole pandemic. Like, are students coming to school? Like, what was the feeling in the community and stuff like that? But I will stick to the question. If I have students that never stop talking, I do any number of things, right? And so it depends on the day, depends on the student, depends on the class that I'm teaching, but that can look like a lot of different things. One, I'll move students, and I tell kids that, there's kids that that will get aggravated because you're moving them because they think you're singling them out. So I will say, like, look, I think you're going to work better here because of this, this, and this reason, right? It's not because you're in trouble. Like, I get it, man. If I'm sitting next to my best friend and I'm in a PD meeting, like, I'm going to talk to them also, right? Like, this is what I do. And we are, by nature, we like communicating with one another. So I think it's just going to happen. But, or I'll ask kids, like, look, we're not reaching our potential because we're too much engaged in what's going on here, right? So what do we need to do to help you to be the best that you can be in this class, to win at this class? And so what you're doing is you're putting it in the students' hands and you are letting them make the decision. So I'll say, like, well, like, where do you want to sit? Like, because kids will often just say, I don't know. I'll be like, well, where do you want to sit? You can sit anywhere in the room. Literally anywhere in the room. You can stand on your head in the back against the wall if you want to. You can lay on the windowsill. You can sit on the couch. You can sit on the floor with a clipboard in your hands, so long as you're engaged. So what would you do? Where would you go if you had full range? That sometimes helps because it puts the what you're doing in the student's hands. The other thing I'll do, like, this is sometimes, like, I'll mess with kids. Like, I'll just put something around their desk. I'll squirt them with a water pistol. I'll, depending on the student. And again, I can call home, but when I call home, I never, ever, ever, ever have a phone call that sounds something like, hey, I'm just calling you to let you know that your student, Scott, keeps talking all the time in class. And I've tried everything I can think of. It's every single day. I cannot get him and his friends to stop talking. And I just wanted to let you know. Because all that's doing is pissing off the parent, pissing off the student. They come back the next day, they're more angry with you. So it becomes this gnashing that doesn't need to happen. I call instead and say, hey, look, here's a problem. Here's a situation that's coming up in class. Your student talks every day. I've tried this, this, and this to try and help them focus in, because I want them, right? This is what you're communicating. I want them to win, not I want them to be quiet, because that's about control. That's about rules. That's about you versus them. What you're trying to do is say, I'm trying to, like, pull this student up off of a cliff with a rope, but, like, they're pulling the other way, right? And so, like, I'm trying to help them out, but my help's not being seen, or it's not being, or they're not kind of going along with it. Then you ask, what has worked in the past to help that student do well? And that is a conversation, like I say all the time, you're putting it on the parent, because the parent knows the child, and then they can inform you in the best way possible on how to help their student do well. And so I think, like, basically those three things would really work. If not, then I'm talking to students alone in the hallway and asking them what's going on and how we can work this out. I'm having lunch with those students and building relationships with those students, because when I build relationships with those students, then they're not acting out my class, because there's a new level of respect and trust that I have. So I've made a deposit into it as well. But any number of those things, if you try them, but it's like not giving up. It's ultimately, look, the problem with students talking in class all the time is, and maybe it has something to do with lessons too. So, like, making sure that your lessons are engaging enough, that they're moving quick enough, that there's a certain set amount of time. So if you're talking and doing something and the class moved on, bro, you just missed the train. Like, I'm not, the train doesn't go in reverse to come back to the stop because you showed up late. So if there's 10 minutes to do this, I'm holding you to it. There's an alarm on my phone, then we're moving on after that. But yeah, so I just think that, like, any number of those things could potentially work in your situation. Steve Gideon is asking, question, going back to school for my master's, should I get a master's in education or a master's in English? I already have a BA in English. My guess, maybe someone else would be able to say this because I don't have a master's, but I would say getting your master's in education feels like that would serve you better going forward, especially in the education space. So that's something I feel like a college advisor would be able to tell you. Also, I think it ultimately has to do with, I think, educating yourself in any way has to be done with the end in mind. What do you want to do? And what does that look like? So like I have like all these pictures on my wall over here, and I have pictures in other places in my house that are like the end goal, right? Like they are part of my goal, right? It's something I want to do. So whether it's my sauna that I want to own a sauna. The health benefits are incredible. They're really not that expensive. It's something I can even fit in my baby little yard right now, but it's something that I want. But I have a vision. I have my entire life actually planned out to a T. So I don't do anything that I'm just doing to do it. It is always building towards my ultimate dream, my ultimate goal, my ultimate life that I have for my family. So that's how I would think about getting a master's as well. It's like, how does this play into your overall plan for your life? And if you don't know that answer, then that's something worth thinking about like, well, why would I want to go back for a master's? Is it just fun? Do you like school? Do you like English? Do you like education? But like what, I like to just have this bigger sense of like what I'm going to do. And that's how I get after it. Kellen White is asking, question, I'm starting a teacher training program in the summer and will be co-teaching in the fall. I feel like confidence is needed to be effective. Any advice on how to build confidence? So Kellen, confidence, I think is not something I was born with, right? I have, in many respects, a great deal of confidence now. Like I always walk into school confident. Like I feel like I'm on top of my game. Like I could do anything. There's other places in my life that I don't have a lot of confidence in. And that's, I think, because the places I have confidence, I have dared greatly in those areas and won. And when you do that, it's like, damn, like if you got into a fist fight and you fought someone and you won, right? Even if they were much bigger than you, stronger than you, more skilled at fighting than you, and you win, you just feel more confident about that. If you get beat up all the time, there's not a lot of confidence there. So, I think what I would do is be okay with the idea that you're not confident in the beginning of the year, right? But remember this, fear and excitement feel very, very similar to one another if you really think about it. And so I sometimes will tell myself, I'm not scared. I'm just really excited about what's coming up. And so I get myself excited. I go in, and the number one thing I can tell new teachers is do not wait to be the teacher you always dreamed of being. Be it now. Try it now. Not once co-teaching's done, not once I have my own classroom, once I have my own classes, once I have tenure, once I have a new contract, once I get through the year, once my kids are grown up, once, there's always something else. It's literally making the decision now to be the teacher you always dreamed of being. But going back to this stuff, it really takes having a sense of what you want that to look like. So think about it, sit down, put music on, grab a glass of wine, do whatever, but like actually envisioning what would my ultimate classroom look like? What would my relationships look like? What would how would I walk in the class? How would I start class? How would I run class? How would I end class every day? How would I build excitement? How would I get kids excited to show up to school? How would I greet people every single day? How would I get along with my coworkers? Like and I never ever, when I'm doing this, take into account haters, trolls, or anyone that's going to be in opposition to me, right? They don't get to play a part in my fantasy. My fantasy is there because I think that if I see it, then I can be it. And so I'm building up confidence before I even walk in there. And then I'm going to try all these things. And some of them you'll do well at, and some of them you'll fall flat on your face and you'll be completely crushed and embarrassed and you can't believe you even got into this profession. But if you can build on those and keep growing, then I think that you win, and then your students win, and then that's when confidence starts to show up. So that's I'm not sure if that helps, but I hope it does.
Someone said, and they said preparation helps them to feel confident.
Yes, 100%. Well. Yeah. And so I think that goes back to that piece, and that can play into that, like dreaming what it's going to look like, like being prepared. I love being in a classroom that is 100% ready on the first day of school, where I can like literally just sit down in the front and I look at it and I'm like, there's nothing more to be done.
is only the execution of of the game that really matters. But like the desks are there, the seating is, other seating is ready, my papers are made, my copies are created, and then going like executing on my vision after that.
I don't know what that question is.
Zachary saying, how are you handling all of this? I don't know what that's speaking to specifically, but I could make something up. So, I mean, if I'm dealing with like quarantining, like everyone else is, this chair is very squeaky today.
Could you fix that?
I will. I don't know. I have to tighten it up, I think. You know, to me, like all this stuff that's going on is like, hasn't for us been the worst. It's actually been like a really great blessing for all of us. With regards to our family and our personal business and connection piece with one another. Like I wake up every morning and have like, I don't know, hour and a half long dreaming,
however long we
coffee sessions with my wife. Yeah. Like my day is mine. I have tons of stuff to do. I've gotten an absurd amount of like brand deals and stuff since we went on this sort of like quarantine from school. Now look, I do miss my students. I do miss being in school. I don't like distance learning. It is not like, it's not preferable to me rather to being in the classroom. I'd much rather be in the classroom. That's what I got into school for. So it's like, I miss all of that, but like, being home with my family and getting to like take breaks when I need to. And I just feel like it's what I thought it was going to be. I know 100% that I come out of this stronger than when I went into it. Like, and when I'm thinking about the shift that's coming up in my life, like planning, because I planned it all out, planning on coming out of this so much stronger, and then like actually like doing it has just been really fun. But I say that knowing that like there's a lot of people that are suffering in the world, like, but you know that there are people that are having a really hard time with this, people that are living alone, people that are depressed, people that are, this is bringing up a lot of issues for them and stuff. And I don't minimize that at all, but I'm saying my experience is what I've decided to do was shift my mindset and think of like, yo, look, like, I don't know, you know, history teachers would know this, but like during the plague in London, they would put people in their houses and board your door up from the outside. Like you weren't allowed to leave. So it wasn't like social distancing wasn't even a thing. It was like, you can't leave.
They made you do it.
Yeah, you're forced to do it. So I just think that it's not like, if I was going to be quarantined, 2020 is the year that I would do it, right? Like, so like me living in America in the year 2020, being quarantined, like isn't so bad. Like it's.
Yeah. I just want to say though, that despite like, I think everybody through quarantine has some sort of hurdle that they've had to get over. Like even for us, right? Like just learning space and boundaries when dad is working and you're not fully accessible all the time. And there's still been things that we've had to like overcome and trials that we've had to now. We haven't had anything major to deal with, like a financial loss or, you know, a loss of a loved one or, you know, we have a little outdoor space, like things like that has been really great. But
yeah, so that's what I'm thinking about. Kelly is asking, Kelly Homestead, is that really your last name? It's a great last name.
Because CJ wants to homestead.
I do. I want to. Yeah, awesome. First year teacher here, starting in the fall. Any tips on flexibility? That's a great question. Any tips on flexibility? So first of all, congratulations on starting your teaching career. I think that's awesome. What do you think?
On flexibility? Gosh, knowing that the job is never done, I would say like as an outsider for teachers, like looking in, like when you started, it is literally never done. Like you're never gonna be caught up on everything. There's always something else to do. And I think that the biggest thing that I have always seen in you is really like cutting out your time.
Sorry.
Oh, I don't feel it. Thanks. Like scheduling your time, right? Like personal time and school time and like really chunking those out. I think that seems like the best way to stay seen.
Yeah. And knowing that it's not all on you, right? So I think that one of the ways I I was able to be flexible. So I talk about this in the book, where I talk about this time that we did a lesson based on Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. And so then I talk about how like that just didn't go well. It was just a total nightmare. And so I could have like beat myself up about it or whatever, but I was able to take what the kids wanted to do and flip that into something that we actually did in class, and like let them actually have a voice in class. And so that was a sign of being flexible. I think also being flexible is like, schools are going to throw all kinds of stuff at you. And if you go in too rigid or with exactly what you think is going to happen in mind, then you lose. Because every time someone throws something at you, throws a curveball, you get all beat up about it and stuff. I really think, and this is something that I would actually read up about, I think staying in a state of play is the way to handle anything. Because when you're in that state of play, you just don't get as bogged down about it, right? And so I heard this really great podcast years ago.
That's so true. And that's such a difficult, it's so funny. We're complete opposites in that way. You can stay in a state of fun, which is like or play, which is your natural state. That is not natural for me. But when I can make myself laugh at something that would generally, it's still funny, but just annoying to me because I don't operate like that. Like if I can make myself put a smile on my face or muster up a tiny little laugh, it changes everything.
Well, that's the reason that I do like I have all the weird crap in my room,
and I hate
too,
that,
right?
To be honest.
It's because, wait, you hate what?
I hate that works. I hate that's like it works better being in that state, and that's not my normal state. So that's what I hate, I think.
But if I say like with all the things that I do in school, like all the wacky crap that I do all the time, the reason that works for me is because it puts me in that state of play, and then you're more flexible. And so I heard this really great podcast. There's a podcast called On Being with Krista Tippett. That's like one of my favorite podcasts in the world. And if you go on anywhere that they have podcasts, or just type in On Being Krista Tippett play, there's a scientist that talked about play and how it's so important, and how that's how we learn limits. Like even wrestling with our kids, kids learn how far they can go, or like the limits of like that sort of banter because of play. And so I just think that's, if you can go in with that playful heart, which can be cultivated, even if it's like my wife was saying, like even if it's not your natural state, then you're better off for it. This one? Mm-hmm. Okay. Amanda Davis is asking, how is everyone splitting up work and school while being at home? I've always been someone that needs the structure in place to work, and now I'm grading while watching the Great British Bake Off.
I think everyone's struggling with that.
Yeah. It's, I think one is just having grace for yourself. Like we don't, my friend Alex Kajitani said to me recently, he was saying how his family doesn't do schedules very well. They do rhythms. And that was like, my wife and I were just like, damn.
Yeah,
that was good. Like, because I can go, like, so today I have a lot to do. I have to record a video for a company. I'm customizing microphones, so we're going to start selling. You want to show that real quick?
I'm literally sitting here peeling off stickers.
So I use these in my classroom, right? I have them all over the place. But you can't buy them in the United States anymore. Like, you used to just be able to get them at any number of stores, and now they don't exist anymore. Oh, that has some kind of, maybe it was just lotion from your hands.
No, it's just, this one does feel weird.
It is, so we couldn't find them anywhere. So we found them in, like, I don't know. Where do we get them from? I don't know. So it doesn't matter. But wherever we got them from.
Them in bulk now.
Yeah.
Like
so we had to buy like 100 of them. But so I'm going to be customizing those all day so that we can sell them on our website. Like, there's always all this stuff to do. But like that, I just think of like what needs to get done and what do I want to do. Like working on the microphones, like, and spray painting them all, like, that's actually peaceful to me. I like being outside in the yard. It's quiet. I have podcasts on or just music playing in headphones. I'm chilling. It's really, really nice out today. And so that brings me some peace. The other afternoon, it was like, no, I just want to watch a movie. So me and Jenna and Marley like finished Matrix 3 because we were watching the Matrix trilogy with Marley because she never saw it. And like, that was what I needed to do that day. So I think it is not likely, especially if you have children, that things are going to work out in a certain way every day like they did when you went to work. It's this more kind of like flowy thing that we've been doing where still wake up in the morning, still do my morning routine. But after that, it's like, do I want to work on Real Rap with Reynolds first? Do I want to work on schoolwork first? But then making sure that on my giant list of things to do, I know what needs to actually get done today, and having everything planned out in my Google Calendar. So sometimes that looks like a cup of coffee in the afternoon so I can get energized and rock out with what I need to do. Sometimes that looks like watching a show and drinking a beer in the afternoon, or sitting on the porch for 30 minutes or something like that, or taking my dog for a walk. Like it just all changes in flow. So
yeah.
And I think I think we're getting better with being all right with that, because we also know that we could take off all afternoon and I could work till midnight if I want, and then I can get up at 8 if I want instead of 5.
I think you really have to do what works for your life. Like, what's your dynamic in your house? Do you have children? Do you not have children? Like, are your children self-sufficient, or do they need you? Like, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of variables. So I don't think the answer is the same for everyone. But I think it's just making small shifts to figure out your flow, your rhythm, how you work as a person. Because I will say, in the beginning of all this, it was really hectic. Like,
because we're so
because our life is really busy already. Yeah. But so when we didn't have that like work aspect that you went to work, it became really, really busy at home. Yeah. Without any clear boundaries or lines. And that was a hard adjustment. But I think we just made daily shifts each day to figure it out.
Yeah. And I think we're doing better with that. And it's been a great space to do experiments, to just try and see, like, hey, maybe we will take off the whole afternoon and go down to the beach and take a walk. And then when I come home, I'll just work till 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, let's see if that works. And that's been
a chat room question, but I think you could answer it because you're a parent. And
all right. So Scott is asking, chat room folks, my daughter is starting kindergarten this fall. Anyone know how to wear the teacher hat and also the parent of a student hat simultaneously? So I don't parent like I teach at all, largely because they're my kids, and it's different. Like I can't do it. I don't even know that I can explain it. The thing that is always the same is I keep it real. The whole idea behind Real Rap with Reynolds is it's real rap is like having real talks, and being authentic with people. And so I'm authentic with my kids about like what I think. Like when they were in traditional schooling, if they brought a whole bunch of homework home saying, no, you don't need to do all this, or we're going to do this instead, and then writing a note to the teacher and letting them know that, or having a conversation about like if someone was being a bully at school, or someone wasn't being nice, or someone told on you, or something happened at school. It's like having those real talks with your children. And I just think that it's the same building relationship skills that I use when I'm at school. And those skills are listening to you, not feeling like I have to fix you all the time, and being 100% honest with you so that you will hopefully be 100% honest with me in a way that is kind and caring and not, tough and authoritative. I just think that has really, really worked well for us. And, we have good kids. So unless we're just born that way or we accidentally got them, like, I think,
I worked hard.
Right. Like, I just feel like if you put in the work with your kids, but that's the same thing in school. Like if you put in the work and you don't back down and you're confident and you are, diligent in what you're doing, then I think you'll be all right. Like you'll be good.
Yeah.
So yeah. Jacob Ingram is saying, and also Scott, if school does go back, let your school know. This is Real Rap with Reynolds tip here. I have never, ever missed a day, a first day for my kids, even if that meant missing a class or two of school, or not usually two, but or a meeting or something like that, that when my kids go back to school, the school knows every year that I'm not going to be here on the first day, because I always walk my kids to school and send them off, and then I go to my school. And that's been something that I've been allowed to do and I've kind of gotten away with for years. But I don't want to miss that. I don't want to miss anything. I never miss anything for my kids because of something that is school related or me related, like not a game, not a recital, not anything I don't miss because of that, because it's that important to me. I missed one basketball game because I think I had a speaking gig.
Yeah,
And Mar
Marley
was like,
gave you a hard time.
crushed. She was like, how could you do that? And I was like, never again. I will not do it. Because I have all the time in the world to build my career and do all that stuff. It's like I only have a certain number of years with my kids that are like this.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Jacob Ingram. I don't know why did that come out like that. Jacob Ingram is asking, can you explain how you do your vocab? I have students use index cards, but I worry that my students will lose them. Thanks. I also teach 9th and 10th grade English. Okay, and then he's asking about points too, which is good point. Point to bring up. Pun not intended. So I do vocab in a whole bunch of different ways. It depends on what the students really get into that year. So typically what I start out with is PowerPoint. You get 5 words a week. That's it. And then we do a deep dive into 5 words instead of giving like 15 or 20 words, something like that. And we're just doing rote memorization. Because I want you to actually start using the words and really like having them become part of your vocabulary, hopefully. So that PowerPoint is the word and the definition and the part of speech with a picture of something that is an example of that. And I try and look for examples in pop culture, hopefully something that's new. And so that's one thing. And then I have them make up vocab words or vocab cards, but that's really because my students don't all have like a cell phone. So it can't do something like Quizlet or something along those lines with all the kids. Now, for students that want to, they can put that on their device and create like a Quizlet or something like that, but they don't have to. So I do make everyone do note cards because I think that there's a value in writing something down that commits it to memory. And then the rest of the week varies. Sometimes it's but there's always some sort of review every day where we're touching those words. Maybe you're putting them in your journal. Maybe you're answering questions with it. Maybe you're looking for them in the book. Maybe you're drawing pictures. Maybe you are creating memes. Maybe we're doing a quiz that's based on like, here's 5 memes, match the meme or the GIF with the word. Maybe it's, I'll show you like a 10-second clip from like a movie. What word is connected to this? And so looking up synonyms and knowing those. But I don't think that, we have far since been done with this model of school that is requiring students to do rote memorization, especially when we have Alexa and Google and Siri in our lives. There's zero reason to remember like any number of like of certain things. And I think that's good to have base knowledge so you can read and you can pull from that knowledge when you're reading. But trying to cram all this stuff in our brains is just nonsense. But what I can do is help students to grow their vocabulary in far more organic way to make the words actually meaningful so that you have a broader vocabulary so that you can understand things, so that you can explain yourself better, so that you can learn that like your story is actually important and have the words in your sort of word arsenal to use to explain yourself and to share your ideas with the world. And so that's part of it also. And I think the biggest part of teaching vocabulary is teaching students why they're learning vocabulary or learning these words or why this actually matters. Because that's the biggest thing that pushes students off is if they don't know why. So that any student would ask a teacher, why are we doing this? And the only answer is it's on the test or you need to know it or you'll see when you're in college. Like those are terrible answers. It's being able to tell students like, this is why we learn vocabulary. This is why we learn, science. This is why we're studying physics because this is what matters. And I think that that's something that all teachers should be able to say at the drop of a hat. Like, why are we doing any single thing that we're doing? This is why. Let me break it down for you. And kids don't have to agree with you, but it's just like being able to be prepared to say why you're doing any given thing at any time. And the point system thing, I don't do the points anymore because I got away from that. And I don't there's a lot. I got some crap about this online recently where someone was like dogging the point idea.
Wait, did you answer that question?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it right now.
Oh.
So I thought it said, I understand any point system works. Do they still get 5 points for the? I thought I was reading it differently. So I would say that. One, I don't use the point system anymore, but that's because that's maybe a whole nother video. 2, I still think the point system is valuable. For those of you that don't know, kids get, it fluctuates from year to year, but it's 4 or 5 points a day. And those points are how I help kids like stay focused on what we're doing. I want all of my students to be like intrinsically motivated, but that's not the case. A lot of them are extrinsically motivated. And so if you say something like, if you do that again, or if I have to talk to you again, or if you're not doing this, you're going to lose a point, that snaps kids too. They've already been sort of trained to the point world. And so if I'm doing an assignment and someone goes, do we have to do this? How many points is this worth? It's like, I don't, like, we're doing it because we want to learn and we want to become better people and like grow our minds. But that doesn't always work. So you have to say, well, yeah, it's worth this many points. And then kids are like, oh man, better do it. So if someone is absent, it depends on whether or not I would give them points. So like, let's say someone was there Monday, or they were out Monday, but Tuesday through Friday, they crushed it. They did everything right. I'll just give them the points for Monday, right? It's in my head and I just do it. Because what you would end up doing anyway is like averaging it out, and the average is still going to be the same, right? So, they don't lose points for not being in school. If you miss a critical number of days, like let's say 3 or more, then I just exempt you for the week. So I put in exemption. I say student missed too many days to accrue points for this, and that's fine. Like, so they're not penalized for it, and they're also, their grade isn't like, if I gave you 100, it's like, dude, if you weren't here for 4 days and I gave you 100 because you did well on Friday, that's not really useful. So, that will work as well. And so that can, but then you can do whatever you want with those points. Like if someone gets pissed about that because they were out because something happened in their family and then they showed up on Friday and did a really good job, it's like, look, I'm not going to give you class points, but like you did do a good job on today's assignment. I'll tack on some extra points on that. And I think that's doable. What you got there, buddy? You look deep in thought.
Well, because I'm trying to figure out this person's, but he did it too early, he said, but I can't find the rest of.
Oh, so good. Okay.
Gus.
So start with this one?
No, I think it's all in that.
Okay. So Gus Ward is asking, I'm 21 now, and due to finances and starting school late into the next year, I will be 26, 27 before I land in front of students. What challenges did you face being older and starting your career? Gus, 0 challenges. And let me tell you why. If I could go back, there's no chance I would have started teaching when I was 22. It wasn't for me. It's for a lot of other people. Like, people get out of college and they feel ready to roll. I literally in my life, I just talked to my wife about this the other day. I have been slow at everything my whole life. My mom used to sing this song. I'm going to tell you what it is. This is unbelievable. My mom used to sing, come on, CJ, you're like a turtle, slow and pokey. And that is because
wait, let me just interject that CJ is still the same way.
Slow and pokey. And to me though, like I didn't go to high school or to college right away. Like I got out and I worked at a gas station for a year, and then because I wanted to live the dream. So I worked at a gas station in Jersey, and then I went from before, and then but everything in my life, from buying a house, having kids, having a serious career, starting college, finishing college, starting a business. I didn't write a book till I was in my 40s, but I never wanted to do it in my whole life. Like literally everything in my life has been behind where everyone else my age usually did it. And I can say with full confidence that it hasn't mattered at all. If anything, I've had more to say because, and I taught from a better place. So if we go with teaching, right? I traveled all over the world. I had all kinds of crazy experiments and adventures that I was a part of. I made tons of friends and did all kinds of stuff that made me a better teacher when I started teaching. And so I think that when you start teaching that late, as long as you're getting after it. Now, look, if you're just sitting in your mom's basement and sleeping next to the Christmas decorations, and the only thing you do is play video games, and maybe That doesn't make you a stronger, better person. But like, if you're filling your life with experiences, again, it goes back to this idea of cross training. You show up ready to go. And I just think that you can explode on the scene and really get after it, because you have all of this stuff that you've been doing that's been building up the person that you are. Heard a really, really great interview the other day. I'm going to forget the woman's name, but I was telling everyone last week that my new favorite podcast is the Darius Daniels podcast. It's Darius. And there was, I forget what that woman's name was.
I don't
but
remember
she
either,
is
she was great.
She runs an organization that is focused on stopping sex trafficking and slavery in the world. But she didn't start until she was 50. And she was saying all these things. She's like, I couldn't have done any of this stuff when I was younger because I didn't have it to give yet. So I've been accruing all these skills and building up who I am so that when given the work, I could run right into it. And so I think that that's how I look at that. So don't sweat it at all and just, get after it. It'll be awesome. Laura is asking, hi Reynolds. Hi Laura. Hitting the wall this week. How do I keep myself from thinking about what school may have to look like in the fall? Laura, I just don't think about it. To be honest with you, like, it's literally, there are times in my life where kind of darkness spreading across the land like a shadow. And if I don't get in front of it, it gets the best of me. And then I end up being sad or depressed or whatever. One of the things that I do to ward that off, and I say, nope, I am not having this conversation. I am not having these thoughts. I will not allow it. This is my body. This is my brain. I decide what happens here. This isn't, I'm not like happening to myself. I'm on offense and not defense. And when I can do that, I can tell myself that I'm not thinking about that. Our school is going through such a monumental change in every possible way before next year that it is like, to think about it ahead of time on top of distance learning is like, it's paralyzing. If I think about anything like that, is I look at what's in front of me. I look at what I can do. So I have my vision of my life, right? And my vision of my year, my vision of what I want things to look like. And then I break that down into micro actions. So like, let's say, like, how can I break this down?
I don't know, reading.
I'm going to give you a non-school related example. So look, I want to own a farm. I want to own at least 3 or 4 acres, which is a small farm here in New Jersey. And I know around where I want it. I know how many bedrooms I want in it. I know how much land I want. I know that I want woods. And I know all the things that I want, exactly what I want. So I have this dream, but then I break it down into these micro things. So I start just figuring out how much does a house cost? How much would it and figuring out all the different things that I would need to know, like how would I get a mortgage for that? How much money would I need to make to pay for the mortgage? And so how much money would that require me to make a year or a month or a day or per hour? And so I am breaking it down in such a way that it is all clear before me. And then I don't think about the big picture anymore. I literally look at, okay, I need to make this much money, or I need to get this much invested by this date. And so what you're doing is you're breaking your life down into these micro actions that makes it scalable, right? It is literally like learning to run because you're putting one foot in front of the other and you're not thinking about the 20 miles that you have to do to finish the marathon. That's too overwhelming for everyone. You literally think about right here and right now as best you can, because the truth is we don't know what's going to come in the fall. We don't know if we're going to be in school, if we're not going to be in school, if we're all going to have pool noodles hanging off of our heads. We don't know like what that's going to look like, because the thought of thinking about that, of kids being 6 feet apart in my room and you can't give anyone a pencil or a notebook, that the amount of times I have to wash my hands and use hand sanitizer, the fact that I might have to teach with some kind of plastic thing in front of me, like I'm at like some, I don't know, like some really, I don't know, like a box office at the movie theater or something like that. It's like, it sounds terrible to me, but no one seems to actually know. So that's how I'm kind of choosing to deal with that. Is I do a gratefulness practice every single morning. I sit quietly and I think of 5 to 10 things I'm extremely grateful for, and I actually feel it in my heart. And then I do the work that is right in front of me that day, and that's it. Scott is asking, did anyone accept late work? Oh, Scott. Oh.
I don't think that was directed to you. It was more the group, but I thought, I know your struggle with that question, so I thought I'd give it to you.
I had all my weekly assignments due on Fridays during distance learning, unless kids had an IEP or reached out to me. I didn't take late work. Scott, I didn't take late work either. And I drew a line in the sand. And then the school said, can't do that. Got to accept late work. So now I'll accept late work, which is like, that is like over 1,000 assignments that I've graded already since we've been on distance learning. And now it's like the idea of doing all that late work whenever someone wants to get to it, even if it's, or my favorite, to be passive aggressive teacher for a moment, is you hand in something 6 weeks late, and the next day you're like, Yo, Reynolds, did you grade that yet? Bro, I figure I got 6 weeks to grade that thing because that's how long it took you to get it to me. So I do have to take late work. I do not make it a priority. I get to it when I can get to it. Like, I try and be mindful that kids are waiting to see what they got, but like, I don't let it stress me out at all. Like, it just sits there until I have extra time to do it. And then I do like little ones at a time, and I take off. There's points off if you handed in stuff late, like significantly late. If it's a day or two, like during the school year, I do 0 late work, no matter what, unless like someone had a really harrowing experience. But during this, it's like, it's just such a pain. And I don't have a good answer for that. Like, my guess would be not to take late work unless you knew someone's story. But the kids whose stories I know, and it's like they're still handing in stuff late, and it's like, bro, I know that you're home with both parents and everyone's happy and healthy and doing okay, and then you're just playing the game in a way that is wrong. So yeah, that's my deal.
This is your last question.
Okay, cool. Last question. Jason is asking, do you feel like teaching is your true calling? If you could go back, would you change anything career-wise? Jason, this is a great question, man. I have everything in my life that I've done, I felt like I've done because I needed to do. And so the reason that is so impactful to me is because I never, I do get tripped up on what other people think sometimes. But largely I know my why, and I know like that's so firm, like what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, that I know, and this is that I'm never thrown off for long, right? Like, I know why I'm married. I know why I'm married to this person. I know why I had kids. I know it was a calling for me to move to this house, to this neighborhood. Why are you laughing at that? You're doing that thing.
I really wanted to say, like, I'm glad you know.
You know why.
Keep going.
I know why I got a dog. I know why. It's like, I work at the school I actually work at with the boys I actually work with. I know why I started YouTube. I know all the things that I do. I know why. I know 100% that it is my calling. That is exactly what has been given for me to do. Like, I would realize that, like, other people's opinions didn't change the outcome of the things I did. I'd be crazier and have bigger projects. It would be more monumental than some of the things I already did, because I would just know not to be beholden to the good opinion of others. My friend Marisol reminded me of this the other night, and I used to hear Wayne Dyer say this back in the day all the time, which is what other people think of you is none of your business. And when we can remember that, it's like, then you just feel like you can go do anything. And so, yeah, so that's why I teach. And I could go into that and talk about all that why and all that stuff, but there's probably a video out there about that. But I think there is why I became a teacher, right?
Yeah, but I keep telling you there's a different kind of video for that.
Oh, I know what you think. All right, that's it.
That's it.
Cool. Real quick, everybody. Do I have anything to tell everyone?
No, I don't think so.
Let's just tell everyone this. Hey, look, the book, it's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. If you want to buy it, or if your school is thinking about doing it as a book study, please reach out to me so I can put you in touch with my publisher so I can get you the discounted rate. There's also now, just finished it the other day, book study materials also. So I can send the link out to that as well if you're interested. And so your school gets, you know, a discounted book. They get the all of the stuff to do a book study with. And then for any schools that are doing it or any groups that are reading the book as a group, I'm offering free Zoom calls or Skype call at the end of your study so that you can ask questions and you can kind of like, we can talk about anything that you want to talk about in the book. And if you are ordering the book, thank you so much to the people that are going on Amazon and leaving a review. If you've not done this yet, I would really, really appreciate it. It only takes a few minutes to go on, 1 star, 5 stars, whatever you think, and then just put something in there. What that's doing is it is getting the book out to more people. And the ultimate goal there is to help as many people as I possibly can. And that's it, right?
Yeah.
Cool. We'll see you next week, everybody. Peace. Hitting all the buttons so the thing goes off.